1 1/2 minus 1/4 times 1/3 plus 1/6 divided by 2/5. Let's do the calculations in parentheses first. To multiply fractions, multiply the numerators and denominators. 1/4 times 1/3 equals 1/12. To divide fractions, invert the second fraction and multiply. 1/6 times 5/2 equals 5/12. Now let's add. 1/12 plus 5/12 equals 6/12, or reduced 1/2. Then the final step, 1 1/2 minus 1/2 equals 1. Answer B. John's gross monthly salary is $2,000. Starting next month, John receives a 15% raise per month. Also starting next month, 30% of his monthly paycheck is withheld for taxes. What will John's net monthly income be next month after adding the raise and deducting taxes? To work this percent word problem out, let's take it step by step. Remember, the net monthly income equals the gross monthly income minus taxes. To get the new gross monthly income, we have to do a 15% raise, which is 0.15 times 2,000 for $300, for a new gross monthly salary of $2,300. Now let's figure the 30% for taxes, 0.3 times $2,300, which is $690. And finally, the net monthly income would be a subtraction, $2,300 minus $690 equals $1,610. Answer J. Sue had an overall average in her physics class of 80 based on 5 tests. 4 of these test scores were 75, 75, 80, and 85. What was her 5th test score? For simple averages, we add all test scores and divide by n, the number of tests. This problem is more difficult. It gives you the average based on 5 tests, 4 of the test scores, and then asks you to calculate the 5th score. So let's set up the following equation. The average equals the sum divided by n, and we'll let x stand for the missing test score. So the average 80 equals 75 plus 75 plus 80 plus 85 plus x, the unknown test, all divided by 5 tests. Then let's collect terms. 80 equals 315 plus x, all divided by 5. Then let's cross multiply. 5 times 80 is 400, so 400 equals 315 plus x. And then finally do a subtraction to find x. X equals 85, the 5th test score. Answer C. 25 freshmen and sophomores were given an English test. The 10 freshmen had an average of 80, while the 15 sophomores had an average of 90. What was the average score for all 25 students who took the test? The trap in this problem is answer H, an average of 85, which you simply get by adding 80 plus 90 divided by 2. But that won't work in this problem. This procedure can only be done correctly if the averages are derived from the same number of scores, which is not true in this case. For this type of problem, let's rearrange the formula for the average and get that the sum equals the average times n. So the sum for the freshmen would be 80, their average, times 10, the number of freshmen, equals 800. Sum for sophomores is 90 times 15 for 1350. The overall sum of all 25 scores is 2150. Now we can calculate the new average equals the overall sum divided by the overall n. The new average is 2150 divided by 25 equals 86. Answer G. The down payment D on a house is calculated by taking 10% of the selling price, S, adding $500 for each interest point, P, and a fixed amount for attorney fees, A. In terms of a formula, the down payment on a house is calculated by I would start this problem by writing out in words my understanding of the problem. So for instance, the down payment is going to be calculated by 10% of the selling price. Then we're going to add $500 for each interest point. And then we're going to add the attorney fees. Now let's quickly use the answers to help us construct the formula. For instance, all 5 options contain plus A as the final part, so we really don't need to worry about the attorney fees. Each answer has a plus A. So now looking at the formula we've written down, we see that D down payment equals 10% of the selling price. Well, that's 0.10s plus $500 for each interest point, which is P. So I get D equals 0.10s plus 500p plus the point A, which is on every answer. Looks like it's answer E. Which of the following is equivalent to 4c plus 5d minus, in parentheses, 2c plus 3d? The key to this problem is to group all like terms together, that is, all terms with the same variable, all c's together, all d's together. Be careful in clearing the parentheses. Be sure the correct sign goes with each term. I get 4c plus 5d, which we already had, then clearing parentheses, minus 2c minus 3d. Then collecting terms, I get 2c plus 2d for answer F. For all x minus 3 squared plus x plus 4 squared equals, let's expand each term separately. X minus 3 squared becomes x squared minus 6x plus 9. X plus 4 squared becomes x squared plus 8x plus 16. And now you should notice how I've lined them up neatly so it'll be easy to add them. The final result is 2x squared plus 2x plus 25 for answer E. Which of the following is the complete factorization of 2x cubed y plus 8x squared y plus 6xy? Let's first look to factor out the largest numerical value that would divide into each term. In this case, the number 2 is the largest number. Second, look for the largest value of x that can be factored. In this case, it is simply x. Third, let's factor out the largest value of y, in this case also just y. So the problem reduces to 2xy times, in parentheses, x squared plus 4x plus 3. Now we have to factor in parentheses. To factor, we need two numbers such that their sum is 4 and their product is 3. So x squared plus 4x plus 3 factors into x plus 1 times x plus 3. Adding this to our 2xy, we get the final answer, answer H. What is the value of 4x squared minus 8x minus 5 when x equals negative 1? In solving this type of equation, plug in the given value of x and carefully work out the problem. Be careful with the negative signs. For instance, plugging in 4 times, in parentheses, negative 1 squared minus 8 times negative 1 minus 5. Well, negative 1 squared is just 1, which gives us 4 times 1. Then we have negative 8 times negative 1, which becomes plus 8. Then we have our minus 5. Collecting terms, we have 12 minus 5 equals 7. Answer D. If 1/3 minus 1/9 equals y plus 1 2/3, then y equals, let's simplify the left side of the equation first by finding a common denominator and then subtracting. 1/3 minus 1/9 becomes 3/9 minus 1/9 equals 2/9. Then let's add a negative 1 2/3 to both sides to move the numerical values to the left side of the equation. This becomes 2/9 plus a minus 1 2/3 equals 2/9 plus a negative 5/3. Then finding a common denominator, we have 2/9 plus a negative 15/9. Finally adding, we get negative 13/9, which is the value of y. Answer G. Four times the square root of 20 minus 3 times the square root of 45 equals, In solving problems with radicals, I glance at the answers first to see which radicals appear. In this case, 4 answers appear with square root of 5 and 1 with square root of 7. It's very likely that looking to simplify this problem with square root of 5 will help us solve it. For instance, ask yourself, can the square root of 20 and the square root of 45 be expressed as multiples of 5? Yes, they can. 4 times the square root of 20 is the same thing as 4 times the square root of 4 times 5. 3 times the square root of 45 is the same thing as 3 times the square root of 9 times 5. Now let's extract square roots. Square root of 4 becomes 2. So we have 4 times 2 times the square root of 5 minus square root of 9 is 3. So we have 3 times 3 times the square root of 5. This becomes 8 times the square root of 5 minus 9 times the square root of 5. Then we can simply subtract to get minus 1 times the square root of 5. Answer C. Which of the following is equal to 4 times 10 cubed times 0.6 times 10 to the 5th, all divided by 0.3 times 10 to the 10th? Let's do the powers of 10 first and then the numbers. To multiply numbers with the same base, add the exponents. So for instance, 10 cubed times 10 to the 5th becomes 10 to the 8th. To divide numbers with the same base, subtract exponents. So 10 to the 8th divided by 10 to the 10th is 10 to the minus 2. Then multiply the numbers. 4 times 0.6 is 2.4. Divided by 0.3 gives us 8. So it looks like the final answer is 8 times 10 to the minus 2. Answer J. The formula for calculating simple interest is expressed as I equals PRT. If P equals $4,000, R equals 10%, and T equals 2, calculate I. Let's plug in the numbers and work out the problem carefully. Remember to express 10% as 0.10. I equals 4,000 times 0.10 times 2. 4,000 times 0.10 is 400 times 2 gives us $800. Answer A. Now let's discuss examples from intermediate algebra and coordinate geometry. What is the sum of the solutions of the equation, the absolute value of 2x minus 4 equals 6? With absolute values, you can have 2 solutions to this equation. The absolute value of 6 equals 6, or the absolute value of negative 6 equals 6. So we have to set up 2 equations. First, 2x minus 4 equals 6, or 2x equals 10, x equals 5. Then 2x minus 4 equals negative 6, 2x equals negative 2, x equals negative 1. The sum of the solutions would be 5 plus negative 1, which is 4. Answer J. Which of the following is the solution to minus 4x plus 3 less than or equal to negative x plus 6? We solve inequalities just like we solve equations. The only thing to remember is to reverse the inequality sign under 2 conditions, whenever we multiply or divide by a negative number. In this problem, group the variables together and the numbers together, just as in solving an equation. Let's add a plus x to both sides to get negative 3x on the left-hand side. Add minus 3 to both sides to get 3 on the right-hand side. Let's divide by negative 3, remembering to reverse the sign of the inequality. This gives us x is greater than or equal to negative 1. Answer C. Minus 4 squared plus 4 to the 0 power plus minus 4 to the minus 2 equals, we need to remember that any number raised to a 0 power equals 1. In this case, 4 to the 0 power equals 1. We also need to remember that a number raised to a negative exponent is treated as its reciprocal raised to a positive exponent. In this case, minus 4 to the minus 2 equals 1 over minus 4 squared, which equals 1/16. Finally, minus 4 squared is just 16. Let's add 16 plus 1 plus 1/16 equals 17 and 1/16. Answer H. One divided by the square root of 5 minus 2 equals. To solve this problem, we have to remove the radical from the denominator. When the denominator contains a radical in a number, look to produce the difference of two squares. For example, a minus b times a plus b equals a squared minus b squared. In this case, multiply denominator and numerator by the square root of 5 plus 2 to produce the square root of 5 plus 2 in the numerator, and in the denominator, the square root of 5 squared, which is 5, 2 squared, which is 4, 5 minus 4 is 1, which the final answer becomes square root of 5 plus 2. Answer B. What is the slope of the line with equation 4x plus 5y plus 2 equals 3? The formula for a straight line is y equals mx plus b, where the slope of the line is represented by m and the y-intercept by b. In this problem, rearrange the equation in this form. 5y equals negative 4x plus 3 minus 2, or 1. Dividing by 5, y equals negative 4/5 x plus 1/5. The slope, therefore, is negative 4/5. Answer G. What is the slope of the straight line that passes through 6, 5 and 2 minus 2 in the standard xy plane? The slope m of a line can also be calculated by rise divided by run, or y minus y1 divided by x minus x1. Substituting in the coordinates in this problem, we get the slope equals, first the y-coordinates, 5 minus a minus 2, which gives us 7, divided by the x-coordinates, 6 minus 2, which is 4. For the final answer, the slope equals 7 divided by 4. Answer E. What is the distance between the points A, negative 2, negative 4, and B, 1, 0, in the standard xy plane? The distance between 2 points is calculated by the equation distance equals square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Plugging in the values for this problem, we get distance equals, first the x components, 1 minus a minus 2 squared, which is 1 plus 2, or 3 squared, plus the y components, 0 minus a minus 4 squared, which is essentially 4 squared. So distance becomes the square root of 3 squared plus 4 squared, which is the square root of 25. So the distance equals 5. Answer H. Which of the following is the graph of the equation y equals x squared plus 3? First, let's review some key formulas for graphs. The formula for parabola is defined as y minus k equals a times x minus h squared. Examples of parabolas you might see on the ACT are of the form y equals x squared plus 2, or perhaps y equals negative x squared plus 2. The formula for a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Examples of circles you might see on the ACT are x squared plus y squared equals 25, with a center at the origin and a radius of 5. The formula for an ellipse is x minus h squared divided by a squared plus y minus k squared divided by b squared equals 1. And an example of an ellipse on the ACT might be x squared divided by 25 plus y squared divided by 16 equals 1. In this problem, if we recognize y equals x squared plus 3 as an equation of a parabola, you can eliminate answers C, D, and E. Since the coefficient on the x squared term is plus 1, this parabola turns upward. Therefore, the answer is A. For all x not equal to negative 2, which of the following is equal to 2x squared plus 6x plus 4 divided by 2 times x plus 2? In this problem, let's remove 2 from each term in the numerator and then factor the rest. 2 times, in parentheses, x squared plus 3x plus 2 becomes 2 times, factored out, x plus 2 times x plus 1. Now, if we look at this problem, the 2 times, in parentheses, x plus 2 is in the numerator and in the denominator, and therefore will cancel out. This leaves us simply x plus 1. Answer G. Which of the following is equal to 4a to the 10th b squared divided by a to the 5th b to the minus 1? Let's break the problem apart and remember the rule for dividing exponents with the same base. I'm going to work on the a's first. A to the 10th divided by a to the 5th becomes a to the 10 minus 5, which is a to the 5th. Then the b's, b squared divided by b to the minus 1 becomes b to the 2 minus 1, which is b cubed. This makes the final answer 4 times a to the 5th times b to the 3rd. Answer C. Given the graph above, what will the annual profits for company X be in 1996? Since the graph presents an equation of a straight line, let's extend the line to 1996 and then read the profits from the scale on the left-hand side. The profits in 1996 should be $1,750. Answer G. The $10,000 prize money at a tennis tournament is to be divided among the top 3 finishers in the ratio of 5 to 3 to 2, in the order of first place, second place, and third place, respectively. How much money does the second place finisher receive? To solve ratio problems, let's add the number of parts in the ratio. 5 plus 3 plus 2 equals 10 total parts. Now let's divide the total amount of money by the total number of parts. $10,000 divided by 10 equals $1,000 for one part. The second place finisher receives 3 parts of the total, or 3 times 1,000 equals 3,000. Answer C.
In the next section, Dr. Smith will first review facts related to plane geometry and trigonometry. Then he will present you with a sample problem to solve. Once again, pause the tape when a sample problem is presented and try to solve the problem in the workbook. Then, play the tape to listen to an explanation.
The sum of the angles along a straight line totals 180 degrees. In this example, A plus B equals 180 degrees. 2 intersecting straight lines form 4 angles which sum to 360 degrees. In this example, C plus D plus E plus F equals 360 degrees. Also in this diagram, vertical angles are equal. C equals E and D equals F. Now let's try a problem. Lines AB and CD intersect at point E. Line EF bisects angle DEB. What is the measure of angle A? Let's place information on the figure that we know. Since lines AB and CD intersect at point E, we know that the vertical angles AEC and DEB are equal to each other and each measures 110 degrees. Since line EF bisects DEB, the measure of angle A is 1/2 of 110, or 55 degrees. Answer F. Parallel lines in Euclidean geometry are defined as lines that never intersect and thus have no points in common. A line that intersects a pair of parallel lines forms 8 angles. In the diagram, angles A plus B plus C plus D totals 360 degrees, and angles E plus F plus G plus H also total 360 degrees. In addition, with parallel lines, alternate interior angles are equal, C equals E, D equals F, and corresponding interior angles sum to 180 degrees. D plus E equals 180 degrees, C plus F equals 180 degrees. Now let's try a problem. Lines 1 and 2 are parallel to each other, and line 3 intersects line 1 and 2. If y equals 80 degrees, what is the measure of angle x? If angle y equals 80 degrees, its vertical angle also equals 80 degrees. Since line 1 is parallel to line 2, the alternate interior angle is also equal to 80 degrees. This makes x plus 80 equal 180 degrees, and we can solve for x. X equals 100 degrees. The sum of the angles of any triangle equals 180 degrees. Equilateral triangles have 3 equal sides and 3 equal angles. Isosceles triangles have 2 equal sides and 2 equal angles. Let's try a problem. Triangle DEF is isosceles with sides DE and EF equal. Points EF and G are collinear. What is the measure of angle x? Since a triangle is isosceles, angles EDF and EFD are equal to each other and total 130 degrees. That is 180 degrees in the triangle minus the 50. Since the angles are equal, each angle is 65 degrees. Angle x is also 65 degrees since it is a vertical angle with EFD. Answer H. If the area of a triangle is 24 square units and its altitude is 6, what is its base? We need to remember the formula for the area of a triangle. A equals 1/2 base times the height or the altitude. Let's plug in the given values. 24, which is the area, equals 1/2 the base, which is the unknown, times 6, which is the altitude. 24 equals 3 times the base. Then solving, the base equals 24 divided by 3, or 8. Answer B. A right triangle has one angle equal to 90 degrees, and the other two angles total 90 degrees. In a typical right triangle, the area can be calculated straightforwardly. Area equals 1/2 base height, where base and height are sides of the right triangle. For instance, the area of right triangle ABC, with AB equals 6 and AC equal 8, is calculated as area equals 1/2 6 times 8, which is 24. The Pythagorean theorem is used with right triangles and allows you to find one side of the triangle given the other two sides. The Pythagorean theorem states a squared plus b squared equals c squared. The side opposite the 90-degree angle is called the hypotenuse and is usually labeled c. For instance, if the a side were 3 and the b side 4, then c squared equals 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 9 plus 16 equals 25, and c equals 5. This example also illustrates a special case of the 3, 4, 5 right triangle where the sides are in this particular ratio. An isosceles right triangle has 2 equal sides. An isosceles right triangle also has angles of 45 degrees, 90 degrees, and sides in the ratio of 1, 1, square root of 2. A 30, 60, 90 degree triangle has sides in the ratio of 1, square root of 3, 2. In right triangle DEF, EF equals 9 and DF equals 6. What is the length of side DE? Since this is a right triangle, let's use the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. In this case, side DF equals A and side EF equals C, and we need to find side DE or B. Setting up the equation, 6 squared plus b squared equals 9 squared. 36 plus b squared equals 81. Solving for b squared equals 81 minus 36 equals 45. Then solving for b equals the square root of 45, which is the square root of 9 times 5. Taking the square root of 9, we have 3 times the square root of 5. Answer G. In right triangle GHI, GH equals GI and HI equals 10. What is the area of triangle GHI? Right triangle GHI is isosceles since two sides are equal. To calculate the area of this right triangle, we need the length of the two sides, which in this special case are equal to each other. The Pythagorean theorem in this case becomes x squared plus x squared equals 10 squared, 2x squared equals 100, x squared equals 50. Solving for x equals the square root of 50, which equals the square root of 25 times 2, which equals 5 times the square root of 2. However, we're not finished yet. Don't answer B. We still have to find the area of this right triangle. We need the formula area equals 1/2 base height, which in the special case is area equals 1/2 x times x. Area equals 1/2 5 times square root of 2 times 5 times square root of 2, which equals 1/2 25 times 2, which equals 25. Answer D. A rectangle is a four-sided figure with all four angles equal to 90 degrees. Opposite sides are equal and parallel to each other. In rectangle ABCD, sides BC and AD are equal and will be referred to as the length of the rectangle, and sides AB and CD are equal and we call the width of the rectangle. The perimeter of a rectangle is calculated by 2 times the length plus width, or 2L plus 2W. The area of a rectangle is calculated by area equals length times width. A square is a special case of a rectangle where all four sides are equal. The perimeter of a square is 4 times the side, or 4s. The area of a square is equal to s squared. What is the area of a rectangle with length equals 10 and perimeter equals 32? The area of a rectangle is found by area equals length times width. We have the length, 10, but need to calculate the width before we can determine the area. We have to use the perimeter formula for the rectangle to find the width. Perimeter equals 2L plus 2W. Substituting in, 32 equals 2 times 10 plus 2W. 32 equals 20 plus 2W. 2W equals 12. The width equals 6. Now calculating the area equals length times width equals 10 times 6 equals 60. Answer H. The diameter of a circle is a line segment that passes through the center of the circle and has its endpoints on the circle. All diameters of a given circle have the same length. The radius of a circle is a line extending from the center of the circle to a point on the circle. All radii of a given circle have the same length. The circumference of a circle is found by the formula circumference equals pi times diameter, or in terms of radii, circumference equals 2 pi r. The area of a circle is calculated by area equals pi r squared. Let's try a problem. If the circumference of a circle is 20, how long is its radius? Let's use the formula for the circumference expressed in terms of the radius. C equals 2 pi r. Substituting in, 20 equals 2 pi r. Dividing both sides by 2, 10 equals pi r. And dividing both sides by pi, the radius equals 10 divided by pi. Answer A. If arc AB is 30 degrees and has length equal to 4, what is the circumference of the circle? We need to remember that a circle represents 360 degrees. So arc AB is 30 degrees divided by 360, or 1/12 of the circumference of the circle. If arc AB has length of 4, then the circumference of the circle is 4 times 12, or 48. Answer K. Some ACT mathematics problems combine two geometric figures. In most cases, these combined figures are composed of either a triangle plus a rectangle or a square, triangle plus a circle, circle plus a rectangle or square. To work with these more complicated geometric figures, identify the simpler figures in the diagram and apply the facts that we've already learned. Let's try a problem. In the figure given, AB and CD are parallel, and the lengths are represented in units. What is the area of figure ABCE? Notice that this figure is composed of rectangle ABCD and right triangle EAD. The area of a rectangle is found by multiplying the length times the width, which in this case is 6 times 20, or 120. The area of the right triangle is 1/2 base height. We have the height, 6. We need to find the base. Let's use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Plugging in, 6 squared plus b squared equals 10 squared. B squared equals 100 minus 36 equals 64. B equals 8. Or you could have noticed that this was a 3, 4, 5 right triangle to solve for the base and also get 8. The area of the right triangle is then 1/2 8 times 6, which is 24. The total area of figure ABCE is 120 plus 24 for 144. Answer C. Triangle ABC is within circle A with angles and lengths as given in the figure. What is the area of the circle? The area of a circle is found by area equals pi r squared. To solve for the area, we need to find the radius of this circle. The right triangle provides us with sufficient information to calculate the area. Notice that this is an isosceles right triangle with sides AB and AC equal to each other and also equal to the radius of the circle. We can use the special relationships of a 45, 45, 90 degree right triangle to solve for r. The relationships are 1, 1, square root of 2. Given that the hypotenuse is 5 times the square root of 2, then a side is equal to 5 times the square root of 2 divided by the square root of 2 equals 5. Or we could have used the Pythagorean theorem. R squared plus r squared equals 5 times the square root of 2 squared. 2r squared equals 25 times 2. R squared equals 25. R equals 5. The area of the circle then is area equals pi r squared, which is pi 5 squared, which is 25 pi. Answer J. Square EFGH has area equal to 36. What is the area of the shaded semicircular region? To find the area of a circle, we need its radius. Area equals pi r squared. Notice that a side of the square is also the diameter of the circle. A side of the square is calculated by area equals s squared, 36 equals s squared, and so a side equals 6. Therefore, the diameter of this circle is also 6, and its radius is 3. The area of the entire circle is area equals pi r squared, which is pi times 3 squared, which is 9 pi. However, the problem requires us to find the area of the shaded semicircle, which would be 1/2 the area of the entire circle. The area of the shaded region is 1/2 9 pi, or 9 pi divided by 2. Answer A. An understanding of a few basic definitions should help you with most of the trigonometry problems on the ACT mathematics test. Let's look at these trigonometric definitions with the use of a right triangle. In right triangle ABC, the trigonometric definitions involving angle A can be expressed as ratios of the lengths of the sides. Side AB is, of course, the hypotenuse. Side AC is an adjacent side to angle A, and side BC is the opposite side to angle A. The definitions become sine A equals opposite over hypotenuse, cosine A equals adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent A equals opposite over adjacent, cosecant A equals hypotenuse over opposite, secant A equals hypotenuse over adjacent, cotangent A equals adjacent over opposite. Let's examine these definitions using a 30, 60, 90 degree right triangle. Sine 30 equals 1/2, cosine 30 equals square root of 3 over 2, tangent 30 equals 1 divided by the square root of 3, which equals the square root of 3 over 3. Cosecant 30 equals 2 divided by 1, which is 2. Secant 30 equals 2 divided by the square root of 3, which is 2 times the square root of 3 over 3. Cotangent 30 equals the square root of 3 over 1, which is the square root of 3. In the right triangle shown below, the length of MN is 10, angle N measures 30 degrees, sine 30 degrees equals 0.5, cosine 30 degrees equals 0.866, and tangent 30 degrees equals 2.89. Approximately what is the length of NO to the nearest hundredth? Let's use a trigonometric definition that involves angle N and side NO. For instance, cosine 30 degrees equals adjacent over hypotenuse, which would be NO over 10. In this problem, the value of cosine 30 degrees is given, 0.866. So 0.866 equals NO divided by 10, and NO equals 10 times 0.866, which equals 8.66. Answer J. What is sine B if cosine B equals 18 divided by 30 and tangent B equals 24 divided by 18? Let's construct a right triangle with angle B. If cosine B equals 18 divided by 30, then the adjacent side is 18 and the hypotenuse is 30. If tangent B equals 24 divided by 18, then the opposite side is 24. Thus, sine B equals opposite over hypotenuse, which is 24 divided by 30. Answer C.
Now that you've finished the mathematics portion of this tape, you should review the problems in the workbook. Make sure you have your own list of the important facts that were discussed on this tape. Once you feel confident with the material in this mathematics review, then test your knowledge by taking the full-length practice examination in the workbook. This practice test has 60 questions to be solved in 60 minutes.